For the movie and for myself, and I said, my career, first movie, I'm out.
There was a time when the very name Jean-Claude Van Damme made the world pause. The Muscles from Brussels wasn't just an action star, he was a movement. In the late 80s and early 90s, his spinning kicks and balletic grace turned fight scenes into art. Bloodsport, Kickboxer, Double Impact, Universal Soldier, Time Cop, each one a surge of energy that defined a generation of martial arts cinema. But behind the dazzling kicks and camera flashes lived a man who was not indestructible at all. The real battles of Van Damme's life were never fought on movie sets. They were waged in silence, against self-doubt, heartbreak, exhaustion, and the long road to redemption. From fragile boy to fighter, Jean-Claude Camille. François van Varenberg was born on October 18, 1960 in the quiet Brussels suburb of Berchem-Saint-Agathe. His father, Eugène, was an accountant who prized order. His mother, Eliana, a florist who filled their small home with color and scent. As a child, Jean-Claude was shy, slender, and bespectacled, a dreamer often mocked for his frailty. The teasing cut deep. At 11, staring into the mirror, he vowed that one day he would change that reflection. His father enrolled him in karate classes under Master Claude Dux. Discipline became his armor, pain his teacher. By 18, he was a black belt and a member of Belgium's national team. Yet he hungered for more than power. To build balance and grace, he took up ballet. 5 demanding years that forged the signature. Agility fans would one day cheer. Ballet is the hardest, he said later. If you can survive ballet, you can survive anything. He sculpted his body through bodybuilding and at 18 earned the title Mr. Belgium. But what he truly gained was belief. The conviction that limits were illusions. A dream in his pocket. In 1982, armed with only $3,000, a heavy accent, and a dream, he left Belgium for America. Hollywood was a distant planet. He was an unknown orbiting its edge. Nights were spent in a beat-up car, the seats torn, hunger gnawing his stomach. He delivered pizzas, drove limousines, laid floors. Anything to survive. He knocked on every studio door. Most closed quickly. His English stumbled. His determination did not. Every morning, he later recalled, I said, "Thank you in advance for my success." It sounded foolish to others, but it kept him alive. A few small parts followed. Background dancer in Break-In, 1984, stunt work for Chuck Norris in Missing in Action. Then, in 1986, a minor villain role in No Retreat, No Surrender gave him a name. The boy once mocked as Four Eyes had finally appeared on screen. Blood, sweat, and breakthrough. 2 years later came Destiny. Bloodsport, 1988. Shot for barely $1.5 million, it exploded into a global hit. On screen, he was Frank Dux, but behind the lens, he was every hungry dreamer fighting to be seen. When the film premiered, Van Damme cried, not from pride, but relief. The world had finally heard the whisper of that small Belgian boy who once prayed for purpose. Success followed like thunder. Kickboxer, Lionheart, Double Impact, Universal Soldier, Time Cop. He wasn't merely performing, he was redefining action itself. Athletic, emotional, even elegant. For a moment, he stood shoulder to shoulder with Stallone and Schwarzenegger, the European outsider who conquered Hollywood with heart and movement rather than bulk. The cost of stardom fame, though, is a demanding master. The relentless schedule stole sleep and presence from his home life. 5 marriages would test him. Several would collapse under the weight of travel, temptation, and fatigue. His early unions with Maria Rodriguez and Cynthia Darien ended quietly, casualties of ambition. In 1987, he married fitness champion Gladys Portugues. They had 2 children, Christopher and Bianca, and for a time, happiness seemed real, but the grind of nonstop filming and rumors of infidelity tore at the bond. By 1992, they separated, an emptiness no trophy could fill. He remarried in 1994 to model Darcy Lapierre. A year later, their son Nicholas was born, yet fame's orbit dragged him away again. Missteps, gossip, and distance unraveled the marriage, leaving him estranged from his youngest child. "Not seeing my son broke me," he later admitted. The man who once split mountains on screen now faced a fracture nothing could mend overnight. Falling from the summit. The mid-1990s brought both fortune and fatigue. The constant pressure, sleepless travel, and isolation opened a darker chapter: substance abuse and emotional chaos. Behind the polished posters, Van Damme wrestled with inner storms that fame could neither cure nor conceal. Projects faltered, studios lost confidence, headlines turned from praise to pity. He became the cautionary tale of how fast the spotlight can burn. Legal disputes, accidents, and a public arrest deepened the spiral. Once a symbol of discipline, he now felt powerless against the weight of his own success. Alone in hotel rooms, he wondered whether the world still needed the fighter he had built. For the first time, he contemplated giving up entirely. Naming the enemy within doctors eventually gave the turbulence a name: bipolar disorder. The revelation explained years of soaring energy followed by crushing lows. Understanding it became the first step toward healing. Medication stabilized his chemistry. Therapy helped him face the pain he had long buried. He returned to the only structure that had ever saved him: training. Karate, ballet, weightlifting, now not for cameras, but for sanity. Each stretch was meditation, each controlled breath an act of faith. Without discipline, he said, I would not have survived. Speaking openly about his illness became another kind of strength. In a culture that prized invulnerability, his honesty broke stigma. Fans who once idolized his physical power now found courage in his vulnerability. The lesson was simple: real strength isn't about never falling, it's about refusing to stay down. The Quiet Resurrection. In 2008, Van Damme returned to the screen in JCVD, a metafilm where he played himself, broken, human, repentant. A 6-minute monologue, tears streaming down his face, stripped away decades of myth. Critics called it one of the bravest performances of his career. Audiences saw not a fallen star, but a man reclaiming truth. From there, his renaissance unfolded quietly. Universal Soldier, Regeneration, 2009, Day of Reckoning, 2012, The Expendables, 2, where he reveled in self-awareness, reminding the world that legends can laugh at themselves. A viral Volvo commercial soon followed. Van Damme balancing in a perfect split between two moving trucks, an image of poise and control reborn. Love, forgiveness, and homecoming. Beyond the cameras, another healing began. In 1999, he found his way back to Gladys Portugues, the woman whose strength had once anchored him. Together, they rebuilt what fame had shattered. Their journey was anything but smooth. There were relapses, even a brief filing for divorce in 2015, but they chose reconciliation over resentment. Today, Gladys remains his partner and closest confidant, proof that forgiveness can outlast failure. Their children, now adults, carry echoes of their father's resilience. Bianca, an actress and martial artist in her own right. Christopher, a producer and musician forging his path. For Van Damme, family became the truest sequel, the story worth living for. Legacy of a human hero. There may never be another quite like Jean-Claude Van Damme, not because of his splits or his cinematic fights, but because he showed the world that vulnerability can coexist with courage. His journey, from bullied child to global icon, from addiction to awareness, reminds us that heroes are not born flawless. They are forged in struggle. Statues stand in Brussels and beyond, capturing his famous pose. But his true monument lives in every fan who watched him rise, fall, and rise again. He once said he wanted his children to inherit not just wealth, but wisdom, that even the strongest must learn humility, and that love outlasts fame. Final reflection. Today, Jean-Claude Van Damme's story reads like a long-fought match, rounds of triumph, collapse, and redemption. The muscles remain, tempered by mindfulness, the kicks slower, but the spirit sharper. He has become what few in Hollywood ever managed to be, both legend and lesson. If his early films taught audiences how to fight, his life now teaches how to endure. Behind every split stands patience. Behind every comeback stands forgiveness. And behind the name that once symbolized raw power beats a heart that has learned gentleness. Jean-Claude Van Damme is no longer chasing immortality. He has already found something better: peace. And that, for a man who once tried to conquer the world, may be the greatest victory of all.